All right, so in this video, I thought it would be really interesting to talk about some practical tools and systems that we can use for self awareness and self analysis. Now, I think this is a really important video because in our study of yoga, we often talk about knowing oneself really well and, different ways in which we can do that. And of course, we have asana, pranayama, meditation, and different yogic tools that help us to do that. But at the same time, I personally really love the modern field of psychology, mental health, and emotional well being. And I think there are some really excellent tools and self analysis parameters that have been created that we can actually use to get to know ourselves a little bit better. So, these are some of the tools that I have used in my journey that I continue to use, and I find them very helpful. So, let's get started. If you have a notebook, paper, pen, might be great to jot this down and let's talk about it. So, the first one that I have loved, and I found this when we were in school, is the MBTI personality test. Some of you may have already heard of this, but it's a great 16 types personality test. So the MBTI is awesome because it covers 4 different parameters. I am an ENFJ, which I love, and it was super accurate when I did it. I've done it multiple times over the years, and every single time I've got the same result. So I find that interesting and incredible because it's not to say that we're going to get boxed in by this personality parameter, but it helps you to become more self-aware and know some of the traits that you have and how can you sort of use these traits to know more about yourself and then make the changes as necessary on your sattvic yogic journey upwards. So that's how I think of it. MBTI is great because it has like 4 parameters. Especially it focuses on the first one being E or I, which is introversion or extroversion. So it kind of shows on a spectrum how introverted or extroverted you are in most situations. Then it also looks at your ability, like whether you're intuitive or whether you're more of a sensing person. So there's like a N or an S there. Then they also have something called feeling or thinking. So that's again quite emotional, or whether you're more logic oriented. And then the final one is more about like whether you think in structures or whether you prefer like randomness. So that's denoted by a J or a P. And I found this to be very accurate in my own experience, even for my students, even for the people I work with, even for everyone on my team. And I just think it's one of those things that if you do it and you have more people doing it, it just helps to build that understanding of the self through a different lens, right? So I would highly recommend MBTI. It's a great, great test, something you should definitely look into. That's number 1. Number 2, and I really think, even though this is more in a relationship sense, but I think that it has a lot of validity even as a person, right? Which is the 5 love languages test. And I think this test is amazing because it shows you what are the different ways in which you receive love and which are the different ways in which you give love. And that's helpful to know because you basically learn the ways in which you're able to express, the ways in which you're able to share something, especially positive experiences. And what that does is, and that's what yoga is trying to help us with as well, is it manages interpersonal conflict better, makes you an overall more self-aware human being. And one of the things I've learned is, I learned this in a workshop that I attended by the School of Life, where they taught us that your interpersonal relationships will be successful if you're able to lovingly teach others to understand you better. Like lovingly teach someone how they can love you better and how you can love them better. And that's just a very holistic experience. So I love that idea. And I think the love languages test really helps to do that. And, just as an example, I'll go ahead and share mine here so to help you see how that's useful. For me, words of affirmation have always been really important. And I think it's because even while growing up, my father would always encourage us through words. And I think we learn at a young age from our parents the ways in which we are receiving love and support. And I think, therefore, words of affirmation is a big one for me, as is quality time. But quality time, I think I'm so used to it. I'm like, that's a given. Of course, I'm going to get quality time. So that is something that has helped me. And off late, I've also realized that being able to like give gifts is something that I really enjoy doing, but not lavish, extravagant things, more things that are meaningful, that have a memory, that have depth and meaning associated with them. So I really, really enjoy doing that as well. And it just helps to see where we stand on the spectrum and how we are as people. So I would highly recommend doing the 5 love languages test. The next one is something called the Enneagram. And the Enneagram has 9 different types. I'm not as familiar with the Enneagram as I am with the first 2, but mine was type 3, the achiever. And they've almost got like different prototypes of like archetypes of personalities that you would fall under. And that helps to, again, be aware of what is your dominant personality trait, what role do you play in the larger scheme of things, because in any group dynamic, in any setting, we tend to just take on certain ways of being. And so that helps us to see, okay, what's our natural instinct? What do we naturally tend towards doing? And maybe that's acquired, maybe that's natural, but either way, it helps to know more about yourself. So let's recap. We looked at MBTI, 5 love languages, Enneagram. And then the next one that I've more recently found out about is the human design. And human design is incredible. I think that it basically takes your information like your birth, place, time, and date, and it's able to accurately put you into a category of what type of person you are and where your energy, how your energy centers work, where you have the thrust of your being is, how you operate, how you function. And I found that it's, again, quite accurate to a large extent. So I would highly recommend checking out the human design. It has 4 categories in general: manifestor, projector, generator, and manifesting generator. I think I may be missing out on one, but those are the ones that come to mind for now. Aside from the human design, there's something I've recently found out about from one of my students, actually. I didn't even know this existed. It's called the gene keys, which help you to prototype your genes and to understand who you are as a person, again, based on birth, date, time, and place, but more in a biological way in terms of your literally genetic makeup and how you are designed to function. So another like super helpful method, I think, to be able to discern who we are as people and how to categorize ourselves. So these, I would say, are 4 or 5 methods that we can use to know ourselves better and to self-assess, self-analyze in some ways. And the good thing is these are not a diagnosis, right? These are like neurotic states of being. And in fact, they have nothing to do with you being unhealthy. They have everything to do with just categorizing how you function most predominantly. And I think that that creates a good feedback loop for us. It also helps us to see who we are as people. So these are my top 5 self-analogy or self-assessment tools. And I would highly recommend checking them out and seeing which one works for you. You might like all, you might like some, just depends on what you gravitate towards. Now, having said that, I also think it's important to mention a few yogic techniques to analyze and assess ourselves. One of the most important, of course, is through the Tri-Guna Theory, which is the 3 gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now, this is a vast theory, understanding the 3 gunas. Sometimes it can take your entire life just to understand what the 3 gunas are about. But I would say that sattva usually represents illumination, lightness, is represented by the color white, and it has all the qualities that you would associate with the term excellent or good or a kind and large-hearted person would usually be someone who's sattvic. And so everything that takes us towards goodness of being is sattva. Then we have rajas, which is basically denoted by the color red. It has a fiery temperament. It's more dynamic in nature, and it's associated with movement, energy, dynamism, action. Rajas can have, depending on the spectrum of rajas that you fall on, it can have a positive experience or it could have a slightly negative experience. positive impacts of rajas are when we're so dynamic, we can gather a large group of people to get good work done and be dynamic in our fluidity and energy. The negative flip side could be that you are temperamental, you're really just, sometimes short-tempered, quick to anger, and just have these like outbursts of energy. So that could also be a negative as we look at rajas. So it just depends on how you embody that quality, but that's what rajas or rajasic energy is all about. Then, of course, we have tamas, which is tamo gun, represented by the color black or gray. And it basically represents like dullness, lethargy, or a lack of basically inertia. So the inability to move and get things done. Again, each guna has its place in this world. And this is not just limited to things, right? People, places, food, anything that has an adjective, really, any noun that has an adjective can be described as sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. And so, therefore, we can categorize ourselves as well as sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic as a self-assessment. And moreover, not only can we categorize ourselves as that, we actually can go to the extent of seeing what does it mean to be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic? And then how do we, if we are in rajas, how do we go towards sattva more and more? So it's a great tool, again, I would say. And I think most times we're able to tell, right? Like, okay, in the realm of studying or academics, I'm largely sattvic. But in this other realm, like say food, I tend to be rajasic. And this is just an example that's I'm not usually rajasic with food, but this is just an example to show you that you could be different things in different places of your life as well. It just kind of depends where you're at. So that's one tool. Another one that we use more in Ayurveda, but I think it's worth mentioning, is the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, which are the three doshas that our body is made up of, and which help us to understand the natural tendency that our body has, but on a physical level. So Vata, of course, denotes, again, a sort of, it most associated with wind or lightness, again, but that Vata Prakriti types usually appear a certain way, and sometimes Ayurvedic doctors can even look at you and tell which category you are most likely to fall into. So Vata, Pitta, slightly more fury, associated again with color red, and Kapha is heaviness, groundedness, and is sometimes again associated with tamogun. So usually these three get associated with the gunas, but they're not necessarily combined. It could be quite different in different cases, but these are the different ways of analyzing something or looking at it and understanding it better. So I would say when you're on your journey of sadhana, inner work, practice, the best thing we can do is to combine the tools that we have available from the world of yoga, ancient philosophy, psychology, combine it with modern philosophy, psychology, and then, you have the best of both worlds, because now you can use the best tools available to assess yourself on multiple aspects and parameters, and that will significantly impact your inner work journey and your sadhana moving forward. So I think it's the best to combine, take the best of both worlds, and then use it for your sadhana going forward and to know yourself a little bit better. So I hope this video has been practical and helpful on your inner work journey. Definitely do try out the 5 psychological tips that we suggested and these 2 largely yoga and Ayurveda related categorizations. I'm sure that it will be super helpful. So thank you for staying till the end and watching this video. And if you'd like to connect with us further or work with us, study with us, do classes with us, all the links will be in the description, and you can visit our website, directly get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to connect with you on Zoom or in person to take classes and teaching forward. So thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.